Okay, so then I will hit the record button, and then I shall say, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, today, I know, right? We welcome a man who is the mind behind the Magnificent and Wonderful History Buffs, a channel that aims to review movies based on the historical accuracy, which on YouTube alone has garnered 1.42 million subscribers and amassed 169,873,756 views, having posted just 86 videos demonstrating a mastery of a craft and an excellence of execution and an acute eye for details that passionate history fans and moviegoers alike love and adore. But strangely enough, despite my initial presumptions, he isn't actually animated. He's real. So
No.
let's find out a little bit more about the third dimension of the 2D Herculean historian. It's Nick Hodges. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's my pleasure. And I guess we need to address the elephant in the room first.
Okay.
You didn't study history in school.
No, I didn't. No.
What makes you an authority to speak on anything, then, Nick?
I'm a fraud, a charlatan. Yeah. No, I'm not like most of the other educational content creators on YouTube. So, I mean, I got like a postgraduate degree in filmmaking, and but I was always enamored by history because I just see it's like the coolest story ever told. So, yeah, and I've just thought about combining both for the YouTube channel.
When you decided to combine them both, because it says here, due to my vigorously taken notes, that it took you 10 years to pursue the passion of history more vociferously. But obviously you've got filmmaking and writing in your high school and A-levels degrees. What was it?
Yeah.
I mean, was there a catalyst? Was there a thing? Or a fuck it moment where it's like, these other things aren't working out, fuck it, let's go for it? Or was there always something simmering in the background for you that kind of made you want to do it, but then the right opportunity never presented itself?
There was no opportunity ever. Like I remember graduating from uni and couldn't find work anywhere. Like I was trying to find work as a runner on film sets, even for free. Couldn't get like absolutely anything. It was like rough when the recession kicked off, and then kind of just like over the years, I started toying with the idea of doing a YouTube channel, and so it was just kind of the last roll of the dice. And like saying, okay, sod it. I'm just gonna try to see if it works. And surprisingly, it did. I'm kind of kicking myself, thinking, why the fuck didn't I do it like years before? So, I also noticed that there wasn't a YouTube channel covering historical movie reviews, and I was sort of inspired by Red Letter Media and kind of like those old Nostalgia Critic, reviews or YMS, and how they sort of pursued reviews through a video essay format. And I just thought like how cool it would be if it was done with historical reviews. You can make it kind of like a documentary. You can make it entertaining. And and the weird thing is like I've been doing this for like several years. And not many people have done that same angle or pursued that niche market. Like there's a few out there certainly, but I would have that by now. That'd be loads,
100%. Well, this speaks to something that one of the reasons I really wanted to speak to you isn't just the following you've amassed. And by the way, I feel it's important to stress 86 videos with the subscriber count and the view count you have is insanity. There are people that would have to publish literally 86,000 videos in order to amass that kind of response. That speaks to something because you put in a tremendous amount of time, effort, energy, production, care, attention to detail, and a lot of yourself into these videos. You're not swayed easily by trends or what everyone else is doing. You've stuck to an established way of doing things that works for you. But it also speaks to the fact that, because it must have been tempting, as hard as it is to produce what you do, to maybe can I find a way of maybe can I do a 15-second review, or can I do a historical review in a minute or on a podcast, like, you know what I mean? Like, so
definitely moments like that. Like do you remember, I think it was back in 2016 or something, there was this trend of like people doing videos talking about stuff, but it'd be
Yes.
like footage of them playing CS Pro Go or Counter Strike or some
Yeah.
crap shit like that. Like Leafy, I remember did that all the time, and I thought how funny would it be if I was to do like the Battle of Waterloo, but I would just have like video game footage playing in the background with no attempts for editing whatsoever. So I was advised by friends like that's not a good idea because that would date the video kind of years from now, and people wouldn't get it, the joke, because it was that sort of snapshot at the time.
Which is fair enough, but there must be something within you that demands that you persevere, because so many YouTubers who have attempted to do what you do burn out, hit walls creatively,
Yeah.
even just struggle to reconcile with their original concept because they find a concept that gets them success, but maybe they're not in love with. You certainly have persevered through the adpocalypse, the changing landscape of the content, the way that YouTube is now pushing shorts and content that's on a repetitive basis, daily if not weekly. How
Yeah.
do you persevere? How do you mentally reconcile that?
I mean, I think I struggle just like all the other content creators. Say struggle, I mean like it's very exhausting trying to predict where YouTube is going to go and stuff. But sorry, that's a really good question. There. I try not to think about it too much. That's it. That's the honest thing, because it is, there's been a couple of times I've think about throwing in the towel and stuff, but I just try to focus as much as I can, like on the content, and for some reason it just sort of works.
A few moments later.
Again, I can't emphasize enough how much respect I have for that application, because I do know because the other thing as well is I don't know if people understand as a content creator, and you'll know this way better than me, is when you're not uploading, there's this you feel like you're standing still or sinking, like you like the views aren't, you know what I mean, and you need to, there's always this pressure, just get it done, get it out. But then when you do and it doesn't get the response and traction that you hoped it would have done, then you feel like, oh man, I really should have. So then it becomes a juxtaposition. Do you give in, or do you stick to your creative and your demands as a producer? You know what I mean?
I just kind of do that one piece of content, then sort of move on. Like, I mean, I got like people coming up to me saying, "Oh, in this review you said this." I'm like, "Did I?" Like, I can't remember. Or like, I will research Elizabethan history, but I've completely forgotten all about it now because I'm researching about Pablo Escobar and Colombian coke cartel. So that's all I have in my head. But yeah, I mean, it is a bit what's the word? Frustrating when you work really hard on a piece of content and it doesn't generate the kind of views that you want. But as long as you work really hard on that, it will remain evergreen. Remember, I worked really hard on this review for The Terror, and which I thought was like an absolutely fantastic miniseries. Didn't do that well when it first came out, and I was like, okay, fine. I was a bit frustrated because I poured all that time, energy into it. But then like a year or two later, it just got like a huge bump in views, just sort of out of nowhere. Kind of got rediscovered somewhere else. So I'd say the good thing about the benefits of my channel is that it is evergreen. People always want to know about Queen Elizabeth or Rasputin or Pablo Escobar or whatever. So I'm not may not be talking about things that are trending at that time, but that will come later. Fingers crossed anyway. So.
No, 100%. I mean, for full disclosure, I came across you at a time when I was looking at a channel called Counter Arguments, and your content was sort of listed alongside his because both of you were approaching content from a very analytical but very well polished perspective. And his content was evergreen, just like your content is evergreen. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back to watch these, because here's the thing. I don't mean that, because it's a lot of. I mean, I watched the Narcos, the two-part Narcos videos you did, and they're fantastic. Watch them again the following week, just because you garner more and more as you watch, because some facts stick in your mind, some don't, or some jokes. I mean, the other reason why people should really wait to get these videos. If you don't wait, you'll miss out on cracking lines, and this genuinely made me laugh harder than it really shouldn't have done.
What?
The sewer packing heat. That was fantastic. That was so freaking funny. I had to double take. I said, did he really just say that? That was hilarious. Go back. But the point is that you're trying to amalgamate not only all of the historical relevance that you're trying to imbue in your reviews, the research it takes to do that, but then you're trying to imbue it with your personality, your sense of humor, your own reflections on this stuff. It takes time and it takes effort, and it shows in the quality. The quality of your videos is second to none and consistent. I don't think I've ever seen a single editing error in any of your videos. Any kind of...
trust me that must be loads there, like a drop frame here or there. Or, I mean, you wouldn't notice it because you didn't make the video, but like there'll be sometimes we'll upload something and 400,000 views later, I'm like, fuck, that's a mistake, and I can't take it down because once you take it down to re-edit it, you lose all that momentum, because when a video has loads of views, it only generates more and more views. So yeah. And those are the times where I just have to kind of sort of suck it up, and try my hardest to make sure that doesn't happen again. So,
well, I want to steer away from the frustration of things, but then I have to do one last little litmus test, if that's okay. I want to say 4 words to you, and I just want to see how you react. Mel Gibson, historical drama. Let's just see how he reacts, folks. Mel Gibson, historical drama. Anything you want to say to that?
You got like the Patriot or Braveheart or Apocalypto, which I guess is my probably most hated video that people just despise my channel about that.
I think it's funny because it's one of those things that I didn't really even notice it watching your videos until you emphasized it, that people were really getting on your case about how animated you were getting. But by the same token, I was thinking, he's getting animated. This is a new side. This is something I don't typically... Yeah, you express your frustrations and a bit of annoyance from time to time, but you fucking exploded, man, and it was hilarious. It was great but it wasn't, on a moral principle or any kind of outside source. It was again based on your remit, which is how historically relevant and accurate was it, and like. That was great.
I mean, I probably do cringe a little bit, like, kind of re-watching that. I actually, honestly, haven't seen it in years. Every time I make a video, I try not to watch it again, kind of blur it out of my head. But I noticed that kind of my most recent videos that people keep asking me to do movies that they like. And so I do them, but there's not that much opportunity for kind of humor, especially if it's a crap film. I've been dying to do another bad film for a while. The last one I think I did was like Elizabeth the Golden Age, and I had such a blast, like, ripping it to pieces. But then people say, go do Narcos, do Last of the Mohicans. I mean, these are fun movies, but a little opportunity for humor.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is where the creative scope comes in for you. Again, it's not just, recounting of it is only so entertaining for people, and it's only so engaging for you. But aside from fan submissions, then, one of the things I really wanted to ask you is, how do you cherry pick? Because again, you have to be selective with the projects that you undertake.
Right.
How do you go about? Is there a personal gratification that you take into account before you select it because you know the material, or is there just a market for it? Because again, you've noticed a niche market in producing the channel. Do you notice those same niches when you're deciding what videos to produce?
Well, I basically decide by like reading the comments and seeing what film gets mentioned again and again, and I put that on a list. But I also pick based on variety. So let's say I've done Band of Brothers. The next review I'm going to do is not going to be Saving Private Ryan, because I just did World War II, and I try to make sure there's a little something for everyone. The only times I repeat historical periods is if it's like a sequel or something. So with Narcos season 1, it only makes sense that I finish with Narcos season 2. And for anyone worried, I'm not going to do season 3 because I thought Pablo Escobar was relevant enough for the channel. I just try to do something different. I get, like, I've noticed recently I've been sticking with the 20th century, so that's another thing I'm trying to move on as well. So I'll be like, I want to do something in the Middle Ages, or I want to do something in the 18th century. So that's how I sort of pick my movies.
In that case, then, when it comes to the decision to pick movies, obviously, when it comes to YouTube, the almighty algorithm, that invisible force that guides and controls us all, despite the fact that it's oxymoronic. We want our content to be child friendly. but we can't advertise to children. So let's ask the question of how have you found it now that you've, because one of the things that's mentioned on a couple of your videos is the decision to move some of your content, if not all of your content, to Nebula and obviously Patreon, in order to make sure that people are able to see not only they're able to produce another monetization stream, but also the fact that you're able to produce videos as you wanted them to be. So gore, physical depictions of certain things, bad language, just things like that. How have you found that transition? Have you found that more gratifying, seeing the video? Now you're able to produce the videos exactly how you want, albeit you've got to edit them for YouTube, as opposed to just being, oh man, I can't put that in because I know YouTube's going to demonetize it, or it's going to get flagged for copyright. How have you found that transition?
Well, it's kind of up in the air, like what YouTube thinks needs to be censored and sort of what isn't. Because sometimes, you put the video in and then you wait for the video to be demonetized or sort of monetized. So
you really do, by the way. That's a thing that happens. You don't know until it goes live, which is something you'd think they'd tell you so that you could edit it out before you run the risk of losing viewers.
Exactly, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll upload the video on private and then wait to see if it gets flagged or something like that, and then I'll take it down and try to guess what should be censored and whatnot. I think like in my part 1 of Narcos season 1, I had to censor cocaine in the background, but it was just
there was. Yeah. I wondered why that was, because obviously the sex and the violence, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I remember there being that thing. And I wondered if that was a mistake from the perspective of.
No, that was.
Was there like needles and arms and stuff? I don't know, but
no,
yeah.
It's just it could be sugar or flour or anything, but no, it's it has to. It's just showing cocaine at all. But then when I uploaded my second video, it didn't get flagged at all, and it was up there for a while. I'm like, I'm gonna take a chance in this and see if I can, get away with it. I mean, fingers crossed that I don't get demonetized now. But worried about getting demonetized is a concern. That's why most YouTubers are relying through Patreon or other donation means to kind of keep everything going. So it's just the new rules that we all have to play by. There's nothing we could do.
Well, that is the thing. I mean, because I got into doing YouTube right as you were starting the channel, and I can speak from the perspective of starting with a fairly base idea as opposed to yours, which is much more nuanced and much slicker. How have you noticed the change? Obviously, you're now competing not only with every other video on YouTube, but there's multiple platforms. There's different content types and genres. There's different production levels, and there's now even you might call it professionally produced content that's now just making its home on YouTube and things like that. How do you find that from your perspective as someone that does a lot of this stuff himself?
Well, I think the landscape of YouTube has definitely changed. I'm not sure if I was to start again from scratch today, if my channel would take off, just because there's so many there's just so much information out there. I remember when I started the channel, I thought there might be a possibility, because I remember back in those days, in 2015, whatever, the idea of hey, I'm reviewing this movie, and it'll be a guy holding up a DVD to a shitty, webcam, in a darkly lit room. And I was like, if that's my competition, and if I approach it through high animation and high editing, maybe I've got a chance. But now everyone's got those 4K cameras with that ring light and stuff like that. It's much more competitive. So that's the one advantage I have. But then another way is that the content ID system is not as strict as it was back in 2015 and 2016. There were all these third-party companies doing fraudulent copyright claims to monetize your videos. And I don't know if you remember this, but back in 2015, if a claimant put a claim on your video and monetized it, they would get the money generated from your video until you beat their claim. And all they had to do really was just wait you out. So if you dispute their claim, they wait for 30 days and then they reject it. You appeal it, they wait for 30 days and then they reject that. And until the final third time where you send a counterclaimant or something like that, until finally they would drop it. Meanwhile, all that time, they get the money made from it. And then in 2016, I think there was a movement called Where's the Fair Use?
Yes.
With Nostalgia Critic and YMS, where they basically made it trending on Twitter and other places and said to YouTube, how about instead of the money automatically going to the claimant, which is extremely unfair. That the money's put in a side account, and whoever wins the dispute gets the money. And once that was pushed through, a lot of these third-party companies lost their monetary incentive to keep, fucking with us, basically. So, and I've seen less and less over the years of these copyright claims. I still get them, but it's not as bad as it once was. And the reason I even started the channel in the first place is because there's a lot of YouTubers saying this is how you fight back kind of against that, because have you ever got a copyright claim before?
A few, maybe, because
I
I was in the camp of trying to utilize it for fair use purposes per the remit, but there was, as you've correctly alluded to, there was a time where your use of the copyright material was almost irrelevant. Didn't matter if you altered it, changed it, amended the sound, whatever. From a perspective of covering something like professional wrestling or sport, it is impossible to use even images these days without getting into trouble at some stages. So yes, it's something that pretty much every creator has to contend with, unless they're generating every piece of content that then goes onto the screen.
Yeah, those third-party companies are relying on the YouTube being too intimidated to stand up to them, basically. So, I mean, I got a friend of mine who's a YouTuber, and he's so terrified of it. I've noticed that when he's reacting to certain videos, he'll play 2 seconds and then react to it. And then he'll react to it for a while, and then 2 seconds again, he'll react to it. And I just kind of wish to tell them, it's like, it doesn't matter how much you're reacting to. They don't give a shit about that. They're doing a fraudulent claim in the first place doing that. So that's why I could let my things drag out for 20 seconds to a minute long. As long as I have a decent reaction to it, that makes sense, that's transformative, then you could use as much footage as you want. However, if you're uploading the whole thing, of course they're going to sue you. if you.
It's worth pointing out, by the way, Casino, the entire movie. This is how I knew this. After watching your review of Casino, in the list of suggestions, the whole movie is still available on YouTube. And I have no idea, and it's been there 4 years. I saw your review like close to when it came out. It's been up 4 years, and no one has taken it down. So if you want to point to the fact that YouTube's copyright claim system is fucking bullshit, someone uploaded a whole movie like Casino, and no one's picked it up.
But that's because the movie companies don't care if it's up there, because they don't want to block it. They want to monetize it. So, what's better, like to get it down completely or put like a bunch of ads on it and then everyone gets their piece, including the third-party company that I'm sure gets like a 10% commission or something like that for, filing these claims in the first place.
Which is, this again is one of those things that we have to contend with to a certain degree. But just coming away from the frustrations of YouTube and content creation for a second, I want to talk about your presentation style, because one of the things that I think works so well with your humor when you decide to turn it on and give us a dig at Joe Pesci, for instance, is your articulation and your enunciation and your cadence of speech and the pattern and the rhythm of your speech when you're discussing historical topics that, look, for one reason or another, a lot of people are just sort of like, it's like reading a textbook, but you bring it to life. You really bring it to the forefront, and you really stress some of the aspects of the historical relevance of something and the importance or the relevance or the extraordinary nature of it. How did you begin to develop that, or is that just an unconscious thing that you've developed over time?
Very slowly and painfully. It's like, I remember when I first started recording my audio, I had a rock band microphone I plugged into the thing, and it didn't work.
Really?
So I had to basically scream into this thing as loud so it would get picked up. And that was like the first 6 sort of videos for the channel, which I don't want to watch. Those sound absolutely terrible. But just kind of over time, I've sort of learned how to speak. But even to this day, I hate recording. That's the part I despise the most, just because I have to sort of Wallace and Gromit it, where like I'll say, a few lines, as many lines as I can. Eventually, I will fluff up my lines. I'll stutter or something like that. And then I have to stop the recording, and then I have to delete the last few things I said and then say it again, but bring the same amount of energy and passion. And that gets really grating after a while. So, and then I'll give it as much time as I can, and they'll take a break and they'll come back to it later. So it's a very slow process. Luckily, I'm doing it all from a script and it's all recorded bit by bit. I mean, I couldn't do what you do, which is like free form sort of conversation to keep up that sort of energy and passion. I did that for a bit in a podcast I used to do back in the day, and I wasn't very good at it. I was like sort of learning my ropes, I'd say. But at least with the channel, like I have more in control. So yeah.
Keeping that energy is, I mean, so I used to do a weekly gaming news channel, and I made the mistake of fucking scripting it, and it ended up being half an hour long, and I decided to do it to camera. Ladies and gentlemen, if you try and Nick will know this. So when you get into it, sometimes you've written a particularly complicated line, and you cannot say that line.
Yes,
you can give it one of these,
absolutely.
And all the rest of this sort of stuff, and you get to a word, and by the time you get to the word, you almost build up I'm going to fluff this. I'm going to fluff it. And you get to the word discombobulation. Oh, fuck! No, I'm going to do that whole bit again. So I understand that thing. I mean, just out of benign curiosity, do you have any tips for how to get over that self-annoyance hump where you're like, fuck, right, okay, let me do some jumping jacks. Okay, let me, I don't know, let me get a pin and prick it in my thigh and see if that works. Like, do you have any...
That's not going to work. You got to do, well, one thing, you can either change the line where it's basically the same as the first line, but simpler, so it's easier to say. The other one is to take like lots of little breaks. So if you can't record it that day, sleep on it, come back to it like the next day, makes it even longer, producing this content, which is frustrating because I take forever to research and write these videos anyway. So once I'm in the recording process, I'm kind of like, just get this fucking thing out there because people have been waiting for ages for me to upload new content. But it just can't be helped. I mean, I'd rather have it done right than have it done quickly. So that's all I would say. Just like take the break you need and just do it slowly. So,
or you make the frustration part of the performance. One time. I was recording in a garage because again I'm high production. Yeah. I shit you not. As I'm recording, ambulance, airplane, helicopter, police car, and then as I thought it was all done, I hear clang, 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 and some fucker outside is putting up scaffolding for an hour, and I'm like, guys, I know you don't care about my YouTube channel, but you're fucking up my takes, man. Yeah. So I ended up getting the idea from someone to say, oh, just say at the beginning of the show that there's construction going on in the studio. I was like, that's a great idea. Why the fuck didn't I think of that? So, yeah, dealing with the frustration or channeling the frustration is one aspect. Or you could do what Nick says and just take a breath and approach it like...
Take a break. As many as you... Well, you're doing a show, I suppose, which is very different from mine. I can't talk about, let's say, the Battle of Waterloo, but have like scaffolding going off in the fucking background. So,
have you ever thought about giving the set, as it were? Does it have is there lore for history buffs? Is there different denizens of the castle? Is there anything, or is the extended universe and the MCU of history buffs something that we've not yet to explore?
Well, are you talking about like the background of my character?
So when I was still convinced that you were in fact a two-dimensional character who'd made his way into the internet and started making a name for himself before knowing that you were in fact a human man, yes, I assumed that that was a whole place and you just decided to set up camera in your cut. I don't really, people. I'm not that stupid. But,
no, it was kind of I was kind of inspired by this manor in Hampstead Heath. I think it's called Kenwood House, and there's a library there with a big globe of the world, like all the stuff sort of from the 19th century, 18th century. And I thought, well, if my characters be talking about history, imagine he'd have like a little office like this, with a pin cushion chair, So I thought that would be a really cool sort of set, and I sent pictures of this place to the artists who I hired to do the animated stills and stuff, and that's how it came to be. But I don't know if I'll ever do like a live action version of it. Probably not. I'm too lazy.
A live action version, that'd be cool. Because another channel, Death Battles, they converted into doing that. But I remember thinking at the time, like, that's going to be a ball ache to animate every single episode. And the thing with it is that even though your animation style, it's
Basic,
very no,
very simple.
all I was going to say was it's very, very reminiscent of like almost like a Scooby-Doo Gorillas amalgamation. And I love that animation style. It's simple and effective, and it conveys what it needs to convey. But I can't imagine you literally getting up off your desk, walking across to a map, and demonstrating everything. Like that would be such a struggle and unnecessary. I think the material speaks for itself, frankly.
If I ever did that, like if I was just doing like an episode and then my character suddenly just stood up and the camera followed me across the whole room, I think like many people in the audience would be like, go.
Where's he going?
Yeah.
It is weird though, the audience. I mean, I won't ask you about particularly fickle audience requests because we all get them, and some of them are very weird. I mean, for example, I had one that asked if I could change my video presentation from 24 frames per second to 25, and I remember going,
What?
oh, in their defense, it made all the difference. But at the time, I remember thinking, that's your criticism of my videos. That's all it is. But that's the thing. Audiences are, by their very definition, very selective about what they watch because ultimately it's your time that they're asking for. It's they're trusting you to provide the entertainment. You're asking for their time, which is fair enough. But another thing that's interesting about your style of content and indeed your presentation, a lot of other things, is again that passion. Where does it come from? Historical, stories of history. I think a lot of people are more enveloped in the current goings on because of just the pace of things. We're living in a historical time. In 100 years, people are going to be talking about the 2010 to 2020 period as being, fuck, a lot of shit happened then, didn't it?
Yeah.
But you seem to have like just as much passion for a lot of different periods in history that you then, like I say, bring to life and bring an enthusiasm for. Where does that come from? Is that always been innate, or is there something specifically about history that really draws you in?
It's probably just like from reading books and then watching historical movies with my dad and stuff when I was younger. I really do see history as like this fantastic story that's even better than fiction, because fiction can be formulaic and you can sort of predict where characters are going to go. Human beings are unpredictable. Like I think about like the story of Hannibal, bringing elephants across the Alps, which was a terrible idea, but it worked though. That's kind of like throwing the towel into the ring. Like, I can't believe he did that and it worked, So, and as to why I'm more interested in sort of history back then, sort of modern times, I try to put myself in the position of the people who were living those times. Like, if you were like, it's Scipio's legion in Carthage, what would it be like to take on an elephant in hand-to-hand combat? How terrifying that would be, But it actually, these things happened. Or watching a game of the Colosseum where they filled the Colosseum with water and seeing like these little navy battles going out on the water, So yeah, it's just, it depends on how you tell the story that makes it engaging. I had some terrible history teachers that got bogged down in the dates and logistics of things, but forgot the human side of it. And I got many people in the comment section saying like, I wish someone taught history like the way you did. And there are times where I think like, I wish the same was of me,
100%. And my history teachers weren't the worst, but again, in the same vein, they very keen to stress what and when, but not the reasoning and not why it's extraordinary. Why do we remember this? Why is this relevant to keep discussing? Or how did it influence us enough to want to talk about it? And I think one of the things that I was curious to ask you was, because you've obviously made it, not only a hobby and a passion, but also you would hopefully at least have been able to garner a lot of extra information in researching all this stuff. Do you derive any wisdom from history? Is there any lessons that you derive that you think this stuff already happened? We should have already learnt from it or learnt this lesson from it. Is there anything that you derive from any of your studies or research that you wish you could apply or wish people would apply based on historical research?
Yeah. That is, I would say you take comfort from history, from knowing that as bad as things are now, it was way worse, back in the day. Like you know what I'm saying? Do you remember, like, I think it was on YouTube, MTV were doing those, like, Dear White People kind of reaction videos. And there was one of, like, a bunch of people saying, what the hell? 2016 can't be any worse than 2015. And I watched it and I'm like, oh my God, you guys are so fucking spoiled compared to how things are going on today. But even so, like with how things are today, it was way worse than our grandparents' generation. I think my mum told me about how my grandfather was born in 1900. He was born in in Bosnia, and then when he was 16 years old, he was recruited in the Austro-Hungarian Empire to fight World War One. And then, guess what? World War Two comes around, and after World War Two, it becomes a communist Yugoslavia, and he wasn't, a communist sympathizer. So I think about like what he went through, and then I shut the fuck up, with how my problems are. So I think more people should be sort of grateful that we are in a comfortable period. Granted, there are tough times all around, but it's not as gruesome as it could have been during the bubonic plague, let's say.
100%. 100%. When the stat I follow, I think it's Uberfacts on Twitter, and they tweeted out something recently to say the Roman Empire lasted for over 1,000 years. For clarity, they fell. America has only been going 240 odd years.
Yes,
that
exactly.
gives you an illustration that as much as you think things are certain and there's a pattern to everything, things end. And I found it funny that they had to tweet that from the perspective of, I'm sorry, did we not all just live through a pandemic that changed everything and shut everything down, and illustrated just how much a lot of the systems that we have in place that assure our security, they're only secured by people. If people desert those systems, as they've done in history because of one reason or another, things aren't secure. It's an illusion. It's something you should be grateful for, because it isn't guaranteed and almost certainly won't last forever.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Ta-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. But that's the thing about history, man. Like one of the things that I think people don't like looking at history is because it illustrates the fallibility and the finite nature of human beings. We're here for a period of time, we leave a lasting impression, or we don't, and then the next generation or the next thing happens, or the next big event. And I think with history, it's one of those things where you're either receptive to it and you're accommodating to it and you find your place in it, or you want to ignore it because it challenges your preconceived notions of what the world is right now. And I think one of the things that, again, even with something like being a YouTuber, ultimately your goal is to entertain. But the fact that you do such a great job in informing people without even them really understanding it sometimes, with the Stalin show that you did, I remember watching that, and again, naively, you forget that it's as bad as Hitler seems to be a kind of commonly thrown around comparison to other things, and it's going like, right, well, he's the worst.
It's lost all meaning today because people compare everyone to fucking Hitler.
100%.
And morons comparing Winston Churchill to Hitler. Like,
yes,
what?
and it's because and again, that's why I loved counter arguments, for instance, because the way he broke down how people communicate versus how they should employ logic was fascinating, because they're traps I fall into. But the thing with the Stalin episode, when you did the biographical element before you got into the movie, and you hear about some of the atrocities that he inflicted on his country, but they still loved him because of indoctrination. That's terrifying.
I still get comments like from people saying like Stalin didn't do anything wrong. Like,
okay.
Wow, like 30 million dead and they did nothing wrong. I mean, I suppose like people aren't as bothered about Stalin as they are about Hitler, because Stalin was killing his own countrymen and not like, mass executing people in other countries.
Well, okay, that's a logical line you could go down, I guess. I don't necessarily agree with it.
I don't agree with it at
you.
all. No, he's a pretty horrific man. Yeah, definitely. But he turned Russia from this agrarian society into a modern 20th century, nation with nuclear missiles and stuff.
12 seconds later.
Just changing gears for a second. How did you like Mass Effect Andromeda in the end?
Oh God.
And be honest.
I really hated it upon release because of how buggy it was, and also the story was very, very subpar. I remember there's this bit in the game where where you tell other people like, sorry, my father's dead, but the character looks like she's fucking smiling. And I was like, how the hell do you expect me to take this seriously when your own game designers don't? So yeah, that was a terribly rushed game. I mean, story-wise, it was okay, but nothing, to match up with Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3.
The idea of there just being this technologically advanced species that no one knows anything about, and then some other species that you're just going to spend the whole time fighting, I just thought that was so disappointing.
It
So
also didn't make
disappointing.
sense to me, the reason why they fled the Milky Way to go to Andromeda, because I thought, like, oh, it's because the builders of the game, of the company. Chunk, what are you doing? So he wants to come up for a cuddle.
That's all right.
I thought it would be because the Reapers are coming,
Yes.
But then they just said, oh, we just want to go on an adventure. Like, that's a pretty expensive adventure to go on when there's no reason to, because I'm sure like the Milky Way hasn't been fully explored yet either by that point. It would make more sense to carry on exploring the Milky Way than keep going out to a completely new galaxy.
Well, I guess the justification twofold was something to do with, again, making sure that the characters weren't around for the events of Mass Effect 3 so that they couldn't have been affected, but also so that the characters can have the revelation of what happened, and we can then see them reacting, and that then makes us empathize with these new characters more. And I remember thinking, like, dude, I already lived through all this. I don't care how you feel about this, because you're a fictional character that has the facial range of a statue. I don't care, Ryder, what you think. I've already been pissed off by the ending of Mass Effect 3. I don't care if you're pissed off by it too.
Yeah, you know they're making another one, right?
They're making another. I was going to ask you, because not only was I curious about why that particular title was one that you were looking forward to, but also what your thoughts are on them bringing it back, and also alluding to this idea that Shepard is alive and that we're going to interact with him or her in the new game.
He shouldn't be. He should. Hello. You want to say hi, Chunk?
What's up?
Oh boy.
See, now this is the part of the video that really is going to get the views. Cute animals always. We might as well just stop talking now. Let's let him take the stage.
Yes. Anywho,
my whole career made.
I don't think it's going to be I don't think it should be a direct continuation of Shepard's story. I think he's the martyr. He's done. It should be maybe his kid. If you romance Liara, it makes sense for her to have like a kid.
You romance Liara as well?
Oh yeah, man.
Oh, good lad. That's what I like to see.
Well, wait, Tali, right?
So
Who did you romance?
So Liara, but I was a bit of a hooer, and I romanced Miranda in the second game, and then had to break up with her in the third one. So.
Oh, she completely annoyed me, Miranda. Because her whole complaint is like, I'm just so genetically perfect and I hate my dad. I'm like, oh, well, fuck you. I wish I was genetically perfect and skilled and everything. I don't care if it came from a bottle or something.
I didn't know Liara would, because it seemed like Liara wasn't going to join you in the third. Because in the second game, you have the opportunity to let her. Well, this is before the Shadow Broker DLC and all the rest of this sort of shit.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, Liara's made her think, okay, well, I'm not riding solo for the rest of this adventure. I might die. Fuck that. Okay, Miranda's here. Okay, well, I suppose I'll help you with your sister and whatever. Okay, we cool? We cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, fair enough. I mean, do you have a particular affinity for the Mass Effect franchise then, or is it just happened to be a game?
Definitely my favorite game series. Thing after that would be Dead Space. Like Dead Space 2 is just like, I mean, you could tell with the.
I can see, yeah.
So yeah, that and The Witcher 3. Brilliant too.
Do you know what? We have a connoisseur here, ladies and gentlemen, because Witcher 3 is if there's a better that third-person RPG style fantasy game with all the nuances. And by the way, when I reviewed it, I made a real emphasis to say this right. There's no right or wrong answers. Every decision you're going to have is going to have unintended consequences that you're going to fucking hate.
Yeah.
So you can't win. You can't like, oh yeah, I'll save the village and everyone's going to love me. No, you save the village and then the monster comes and kills everyone and then holds you responsible. And it's like, I didn't know that was going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
For the information I had. Okay, what more do you want of me?
I negotiated a good price. I didn't know that person needed money for food. That sucks. But that's fair enough. I mean, because the Mass Effect, for full disclosure, exactly the same. Absolutely love the genre. The series up until that third game, and I was like with everybody else, just so not offended, but I was just so. It was one of the games that I'd booked a day off work to play. You bastards! You made me miss a day of work. How could you? And then you. It's just I don't know.
It was not the same team that made the other three, was it? It was a completely like new team from Vancouver or something like that.
Correct.
Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. They utilized a lot of the same, but it's the same with Knights of the Old Republic when they shifted from 1 to 2. It's exactly it's fraught with the same issues where you try and recapture a quintessential essence of a game, but you fundamentally
yeah.
misunderstand it. So,
Yeah.
but there you go.
We bring a Mass Effect Andromeda because I made fun of it in a review of mine.
You probably did, but you also made reference to it in an interview where you were looking forward to it, and I was like,
Oh,
I was
I know what
watching
it
it,
was.
and I went, "Oh no, he's looking forward to Andromeda. Oh
It
no."
was. I remember what it was. I got it for interesting story. It was for Band of Brothers, and there was a scene where like they get Hitler's death date wrong.
Yes,
I
indeed.
can't
Yeah.
remember if it was before or was after. And I was saying, like, I think the joke was like, he's fully alive by this point. He's probably still bitching about Mass Effect Andromeda. And then
Yes, you're right. He does the Hitler thing, and he reacts in the corner. You're right. Yeah, because he'd still be alive for another 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. But the funny thing was that after that review came out, the writer for Band of Brothers responded. He wrote down in the comment section, it's like, actually, when I wrote the original screenplay, the death date was correct. The editors fucked it up. And it's still on there. It's like the most popular comment. And he's like, here's the script that I wrote back in 1997.
He's embracing the two most important tenets of any grown-up adult's life. Never answer any questions unless you absolutely have to, and if you can, throw someone else under the bus, and you'll be just fine.
I was like, whoa, the rights for Band of Brothers has watched my video. I hope I didn't rip on him too much.
But again, you approached it with jest and with a certain appreciation for the fact, and you make reference to this in almost every bad or critical review that you do, where you say, listen, by the way, this is fucking ace. I love it. I'm just saying that historically it's a bit bollocks. And that's fair enough, because they market these things based on the fact that these things really happened. So it's kind of a critical point that they get a lot of this stuff right.
It depends if it's like a small mistake or if it's an intended decision to mess around with history. There's this interview, I think it was with Randall Wallace, who wrote the screenplay for Braveheart. And he said in the interview, he's like, I wasn't interested in facts or numbers or trying to quantify. I was just looking for a spirit and a feeling that I had when movies changed my life. I'm like, you took forever to say nothing. What the fuck does that mean? I was like, how come you don't play it like that when you do a Vietnam War movie where you do take the subject matter seriously, but if it's like Scottish history, fuck it. Let's have all the Scot like wearing kilts even if they didn't. Let's have them dressing up like Picts even though they weren't. They were extremely Catholic at the time, and they all look like Mad Max extras,
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is it's no different than Meet the Spartans. It's like, okay, we've got the court wardrobe kind of okay, we've got the names sort of right. Now we'll just make up whatever happens at that point and just try and make it semi-entertaining based on sort of preconceived notions of how a movie should go, which is kind of weird. A couple of last questions, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Have you made it with Joe Pesci yet?
No, I'm on the run from Joe Pesci. Hopefully he doesn't find me yet. But luckily he's a bit too old by now. I saw him in The Irishman.
I was going to say, what did you make of The Irishman, considering that that one is it's held up as a historical piece of filmmaking, but it's also pilloried for some of the shit that it says it did happen, but people have come out and said that no, the guy who the movie is based on couldn't have committed the crimes because of these reasons.
He's full of crap, that guy. Yeah. There's a YouTube channel I watch with like an ex-mobster. Forget his.
It's not Sonny Francis, is it?
Well, yeah, that's it. Was it from Sonny Francis? He's got black hair and like a.
No, Michael Francis. Sorry, no, it is Michael Francis. Yeah. Sorry, my apologies.
And he reacted to that. He's like, yeah, it's absolute, horse crap, that. But otherwise, I see it's good historical fiction. I mean, maybe I might research it, someday. But otherwise, I loved it. Like I love watching a good Martin Scorsese film, kind of getting sucked up with the writing and the acting, because there's some brilliant dialogue in that, and there's never a moment where I was bored sort of watching it. So yeah, it felt like watching Goodfellas again.
I was excited when I heard about the movie being released, and it was one of those lovely little perks of picking up Netflix, because then you're treated, and again, for someone that was I was a fan of The Godfather when that dropped, and not a lot of people have the patience to sit through a Godfather movie these days. At least none of my peers and people that have heard it. So yeah, I can appreciate but again, that would be a short review. Okay, so here's the Irishman. The guy's full of shit.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for watching, History Buffs.
Well, no, I mean, I could point out, if I was to do a review of it, I wouldn't just sum it up that quickly. Then I could just do that with any, film. But I would just point out as events as they happened as we move along, and that's what people sort of expect. Not sure if people like me doing my deep dives these days, or if they want me to go back to how I used to do things, which was very compressed. So actually, I could ask your opinion. What do you think?
My opinion is that it depends on the mood I'm in, quite frankly. Some of the original videos are very concise and very quick. Sorry, not quick, but they're very concise and to the point, and you've highlighted things. But then I'm watching it more for entertainment purposes, whereas the videos that you're producing these days, where they are longer, I'm a podcast guy. I love putting something on while I'm in the middle of maybe something else creative or something, and just kind of garnering it as I go, and then you kind of look up. And then you start paying attention, and then you become engrossed, and then suddenly you'll watch it 5 or 6 times. So I think the fact that you've got that development, and you've always got the option to be able to produce things on a shorter basis or a quicker basis, but the fact that you've got the capacity to do both is probably the better thing, because it's better to be able to continue to go rather than, oh shit, I'm only up to 10 minutes. Thanks very much for watching, folks.
Yes. I feel sometimes I'm going down like a rabbit hole of how long these videos are.
Well, I was going to ask you, actually, that's a good question, by the way, if you don't mind, is how do you know when you're done? I mean, most content creators have they have a time limit, or they have just their own personal, like, oh, I'm kind of done. I feel like I've done enough. Do you have your own impositions on when you're done, or do you have the audience's expectations when you try and produce something?
I did in the old days. My word limit to myself was 5,000 words, which would equal to around about 20-minute episode, as all those words would be scripted. But then I noticed that there were times of thinking like, God, I wish I mentioned that. I could have made my point more clearly there. Well, that was an interesting thing, but I cut that for time. And then as I sort of progressed, I was just like, these videos just naturally became longer and longer. And then before I realized, like, oh my God, I'm doing like 2 parts for like 1 season of a show. But the thing is, because it's like 10 episodes, I'm going episode by episode, pointing out as we sort of move along. And it also does help me from writing perspective, because I have something to sort of go on, as opposed to how I think I used to do it in the old days of like 1 chapter would be dedicated to the background of the film, and then the other 2 chapters would be just focusing stuff on the film itself, and there would be really like a sort of lists of things. Maybe one reason I didn't do it that way anymore is because it kind of reminded me of like those top 10 movie review channel things, or like a Watch Mojo, and that kind of annoyed me.
Which you parodied,
by the way. Up. Yeah. Yeah.
Which by the way, those were always so jarring, because you write in the way that you approach those parodies, and then you just sort of sat there like this, like, because that is the thing, because they just go for the how do we get fucking 16-year-olds interested in this shit, and it's like, well, I don't know, but don't do that. That's kind of undermining the material. Like, don't do that. But
with their fancy editing and flashing imagery and stuff. I mean, I think I made fun of that Goodfellas in my Casino review, like that sort of
Casino. We didn't.
Yeah, we did. So many people hated that thing because it was so cringe. I thought it was funny because it was so cringe.
Yeah,
and
same.
There was lots of YouTube channels that edited in that exact way, but my friends would say, "Don't start drama. Don't point out who these people are." So it's like, okay, I'll try to be as subtle as possible.
I mean, you can. Well, that's the other thing. I mean, that's refreshing about your channel, is that there's never, because the format doesn't enable it. But the fact that I can come to your shows and it's an escape, because that's what, again, I think YouTubers at some stage down the line forgot about what YouTube was supposed to be, at least in my eyes, which was a platform on a blank canvas to do whatever you want to do. Emphasis on the word "you." And when people started consistently producing stuff in the vein of Have you seen what so and so is doing? Here's what I'm doing. Encountered, and it becomes this interwoven web of bollocks. And as opposed to, right, well, what's my concept? How am I making my show better and better and better? You've persevered, as opposed to folding, as opposed to kind of going, well, maybe if I can do this with 3 months or 2 months, if I did one every 2 weeks, but it's this instead of this, maybe. But you've not compromised.
I'm definitely like an enigma to sort of YouTube as a whole.
100%.
The golden, when it sounds really pretentious to say, like, but I'll defend it. I'll just say this. The golden rule is like, if you don't upload content after 2 or 3 weeks, your channel is dead. And yet the kind of content I make still sticks around. There's other YouTubers like me that also do it this way. There's a guy called the Internet Historian who makes fantastic content, and he also takes like 4 months to 6 months to producing just one video, and people always come back to it. As long as you focus on the content being good, fuck everything else. I was given like lots of terrible advice that I never sort of listened to. I remember when I first started the channel, my mum's friend took me to see some contact that she had that didn't turn out to be anything, but the guy saying like, this has potential, but I think it has limits. I don't see this going any further than 10,000 subscribers because it's so niche. And I'm like, okay, fuck you then. And then and I carried on, doing what I wanted. So, and also, like, I remember back in 2015 and stuff, YouTube was definitely looked down upon. Like, it wasn't real sort of content. Now you have like people like, I don't know, you have celebrities having their own YouTube channels, like The Rock or Will Smith. Like, remember when he did that, like, that's hot. What was it, that YouTube anniversary thing they did like once a year?
That disliked video.
I hated that so much.
Day,
I'm thinking like, YouTubers are kind of like our thing. Why are these bloody celebrities like, coming in onto our market? So.
Well, actually, I can point to this because again, I've alluded to him a couple of times, and sadly, because he's not come back, the counter arguments guy. He's an example of someone that quit and was fucking gone. I can't find any. I don't even know who he is. His name, face, whatever. But one of the videos he did was the Friday video. It's Friday. Like, it's like, why are we talking about this? Well, this was the pivotal moment where YouTube stopped becoming sort of crazy third-party content that no one took seriously to content that could be produced and be simultaneously produced and bad. And you go, that's to blame? You son of a bitch. But whether or not that's actually accurate is, but it was an interesting point, the fact that there was because you were 100% right. I got into YouTube not to do what everyone else was doing. I wanted to fulfill my own aspirations and creative outlets, not have it dictated to me by like kind of what you said, like, I don't know, it's not what everyone else is doing. Everyone else, that person's got a million subscribers. Maybe you should look at what they're doing. You go, but they already do it. Do you watch 2 television shows that do the exact same thing? No, because they don't exist. There's a show that does it, and then there's a show that tries to do it and doesn't do it quite as well, and maybe has its fans. Actually, I can tell you, the Halcyon isn't just the name of my channel, it's the name of a historical television show that tried copying Downton Abbey, and it's got like 2 people that watch it. Okay, maybe it's got more than 2 people. For anyone who's a fan of the Halcyon, please don't come after me. In fact, subscribe and like.
Or both of you.
Or both of you. Now that I've made you both up. Anyway.
Yeah, people have completely forgotten, like, it's not worth, if you're trying to make content, don't try to appeal to everyone. Just if you appeal to a certain audience, then you will find that's the niche market. Like, that's how you'll get ahead. So
100%.
Find out what. Yeah, sorry.
No. So find it. I have this fucking habit. Shut up, Lorne. Future me.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Like I'm sure I can't remember what I was going to say anyway. So feel free to cut this out.
Oh man, see, I do this all the time. I'm too eager. This is the problem. I have this. I hate guests I love talking to because I can't shut the fuck up. So let's because you have a life and things to do. So I have just one more question, if it's okay with yourself, which is
okay, sure.
And it's the big one. How are you going to continue for this for a foreseeable future? Or like a lot of other YouTubers, because you're not the only person who would say this if you did, are you starting to think, what's the exit strategy here? How can I parlay this into something else? Or is there something else that you're really desperate to do now that you've had an undeniably massive amount of success on YouTube as an established creator? You've done the podcast with Vikings, and I'm sure you've undertaken a number, and obviously your back catalogue on, with the gaming sites with the loading bar and a bunch of other things that you've done on Spill.
Yeah.
Like, you've done a lot, and you've done it to a really high standard and really well. So is there a temptation to do something? Do you have any aspirations to do anything beyond what you're currently doing?
Well, I could tell you sort of my immediate plans. Like, you'll be the first to know, actually. My biggest complaint from people is that I don't produce content quick enough, or as much as they would like. Unfortunately, because I do everything sort of myself, I have an editor, and yeah, it's just really me and the editor. I research, write, and produce everything. So I've decided that I'm going to expand the History Buffs team. So I've hired writers to help me produce content.
Wow, really?
And, yep. So there's a backlog of videos that are waiting to be edited for the very first time ever in the channel. And my editor is just finishing Narco Season 2. Once that's finished, then I'm going to do an announcement saying, hey, I'm making changes to the channel. You guys have wanted more content more frequently. Well, it's coming. And basically, the plan moving forward is, whilst my new writers are writing their own scripts, when I'm not recording audio for theirs, I'm going to be writing one of my scripts. And then I can take as long as I want, stress-free, without worrying about pissing people off. So that's the plan. And actually, what I want to do from now on is I want to do bad movies again. I had such a laugh doing Elizabeth, movies like that. I want to do maybe Pompeii next. The terrible movie with Kit Harington. I thought that'd be kind of funny if I did that. So that's the plan for the foreseeable future. I'm just unfortunately in the calm before the battle. Right now, everyone on my channel has been waiting for months and months for the next Narcos review, which is coming. And then once that's uploaded, then a few weeks after that will be another video and another video, and they're going to finally realize, oh, this is actually going to be a professional YouTube channel for a change. It's not just going to be Nick by himself anymore. So
that's absolutely fantastic. I can't, and congratulations, because that speaks to the idea that you're growing, you're evolving, you're progressing, and all of this other stuff. And again, I know it's maybe pandering a little bit, because it's what I want, not necessarily what an audience wants, but I can't tell you how much it fills me with joy that a channel like yours has persevered through so much bollocks. That a small creator like me, look, I can tank it because I'm not financially dependent on it, and the effort and time I expend, it's more for the fun, it's more for the joy. But you've had to tank it during a period where it could literally debilitate or crush your channel, not from a financial perspective, and even if you do survive the financial perspective, it's viewers, people who are being steered away to no, come on, watch this podcast about some twat from Disney talking about his sorry that he went to a Japanese forest and thought it would be a good idea to fucking film it.
I know. I try to stay away from drama as much as I can. I mean, luckily I don't leave my home that much, but so it's easy to do that. But I'll tell the truth. It does get frustrating at times, and you can feel a little burnt out doing the same thing over and over again for 7 years. And it just sort of, I did try to get a writer back in 2016, but they were so bad, the scripts, and I kind of just gave up. So fine, I'll just do it again myself, because they were writing like BuzzFeed sort of articles, where it with the language, that they would say lines like, "Am I right, folks?" Wink. I was like, I'm not going to be saying that. But this person doesn't understand what this channel's about. So over the past several months, I've been auditioning writers, going through as many as possible, seeing who can imitate or mimic the kind of scripts that I do. And I found 2 that finally have, and there's going to be more on the way. But the reason I'm expanding the channel just so to give History Buffs a new gust of life, so to speak. So fingers crossed that if that does well, people like the change. But to anyone who's worried, I'm not going to stop writing. Still going to be writing my own stuff. You won't have to wait as long for a new piece of content. So
that's insane.
Yeah.
That's
and with any luck, they won't notice the difference. So unless they watch the credits. So
which is fair enough. And look, again, you cannot look. What are you supposed to do? Deal with the criticism, not deal with the criticism because of the realities of what it would take to deal with the criticism.
Yeah.
You're thinking about what's best for you and what's best for the audience,
Yeah.
and that's all you can do. So,
This is like my newest roll of the dice from when I started the channel all those years ago. So yeah, I'm starting something very big that's exciting, but also nerve-wracking at the same time. So fingers crossed it does well. So
there's no fingers crossed needed. It will do well because your content is fucking outstanding. There's no other word for it. It's produced to the highest quality. It's researched and presented as well as anyone could, and it's done with a passion and a creativity and an individuality that I wish more people would embody. And the fact that you're doing that in the face of a lot of other things is a source of endless inspiration and comfort to me as a producer of content that's trying to make its own way without falling into the trap of doing what everyone else is. So listen, man, keep going. If nothing else, that you give me hope. And I just can't thank you enough.
That's very kind of you to say.
It's the truth, but it's the truth, man. And I don't know what I will do without you one day because it will break my heart. So
don't worry, I'm not quitting anytime soon. So.
Well, because there's the thing, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about they're too old to do a lot of things these days, and when they say their age, I'm like, I'm your age. Don't you say you're fucking too old to do a goddamn thing. I'm 32, not 58. Okay, 32 is not old. It's not just because
yet.
I remember when dial-up was a thing doesn't make me old. Okay,
yes.
I'm just saying.
You've still got the stench of 20s on you.
I did.
I'm 35. I've got 5 more years until I'm 40. Now that's scary. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, just the fact that I know they're not a Korean boy brand doesn't make me. I remember VHS, and I remember when you had to rewind shit by hand. Doesn't make me old. Yeah. But last thing then, where can people find you? So obviously History Buffs on YouTube. I'll put the links in the description and all the rest of that jazz because I need people that are not aware of you to go and check you out. But aside from on YouTube, where can people get a hold of you?
That is literally it. I don't really have that much of a social media presence. I don't have an Instagram, or I have a Twitter and Facebook for posting updates, but I don't post that much interesting content outside the videos because I'm not a vlogger. I'm not like one of those guys who lives in Los Angeles, doing crazy shit, doing selfies. I mean, and my wife's a couple of times said, why don't you post, one of your days at work? I'm like, what, in the office? Every day I'm in the office reading a book or writing on the computer or something. So, yeah. So it's just my YouTube channel. So just Google History Buffs onto Google or YouTube, and you'll find me. I'll be one of the first people popping up. So.
And there you go. So Nick Hodges, the man, the myth, the legend, the 2D man who's become 3D in our minds. Honestly, thank you so much for taking the time. I can't thank you enough, man.
No, thank you very much, Lorne. Much appreciated.